I swore to raise you as my own, but I will never let you rise."
When Amara's parents died, her aunt promised before elders and God to take care of her. Instead, she turned her into a servant in her own home. Amara slept near the kitchen, ate last, worked while her aunt's daughter watched and laughed. Her name was taken, her childhood erased, and just when her life seemed completely buried, something happened that changed everything. In the village of Aketu, the river was known for two things: mercy and temper. When the rains came heavy from the hills, the water rose without warning. It was that river that took Amara's parents. Her father left before sunrise to cross quickly and bring medicine from the next village. Her mother followed later with yams to trade, trusting the calm surface. By afternoon, the sky darkened too early. The wind changed. The canoe never returned. Days later, a soaked bundle of yams was found downstream, silent proof that they had tried. When the bodies were brought home, the village fell quiet. Amara sat on the floor, staring at faces that no longer answered her. She was young enough to believe adults could stop death. That belief ended that day. That evening, the elders gathered, not only to mourn, but to bind a promise. Amara's parents had been generous people. Years earlier, when Aunty Said had nowhere to go, they gave her land and helped her raise a shelter. When she wanted to trade in the market, they funded her stall and spoke for her among traders. They lifted her when she had nothing. Now, the priest stood beside the elders under trembling lantern light. Amara's mother spoke with her last strength. "Do not let my child become a shadow." Her father lifted a weak hand. "Promise." Aunty Said nodded, eyes wet because the village was watching. She swore aloud, "I will take her as my daughter. If I mistreat her, may the gods judge me, and everything they left for her will remain hers." The elders murmured. The priest said, "Amen." The air remembered. For a short while, it looked true. Then the promise began to break. Quietly, Amara was given no room. She slept near the kitchen, beside firewood that smelled of smoke. By dawn, the work began. Water runs, pounding yam, farm rows, market loads. Her cousin ate first. Amara ate what remained. Her cousin wore bright wrappers. Amara wore torn cloth. In the market, the shame became public. "If not for me, she would be nothing," Aunty Said said loudly. Then she took Amara's name and replaced it with a word from their tongue, Omo Eru, orphan slave. The village learned it. The name followed her everywhere. "You better read," Aunty Sadie would say. "After all the fees I pay." Yet some days, Amara missed school to carry loads. Charity became a leash. One evening, Amara overheard her aunt whisper behind the back hut, "That girl must never rise. If she rises, my child will sink." Amara returned to the kitchen corner and sat on the floor. She did not cry. She only whispered, "One day, I will leave this kitchen." And from that moment, the story changed. From cruelty endured to destiny quietly waiting. Before dawn touched the roofs of the palace, the young king slipped out alone. The walls were tall, the guards loyal, the crown heavy even when it rested on silk. Every day brought voices. Elders speaking of marriage, councils speaking of war and grain, servants bowing as if he were already more symbol than man. That morning, he needed silence. He needed to breathe as himself. So he wrapped himself in plain clothing, left his sandals behind, and walked into the sleeping world beyond the palace gates. The sky betrayed him. What began as mist turned into rain, thick, heavy drops that soaked the earth and swallowed sound. The path grew slick. His foot slid on wet clay, and pain shot through his arm as he fell hard against a stone. He tried to rise, but his body answered slowly. Blood mixed with rain. The king, unseen, unnamed, was suddenly just a wounded man. He limped forward until he saw it, an abandoned hut by the path, its roof sagging but still standing. He stumbled inside just as the rain grew louder. Moments later, someone else arrived. She moved quickly as if the morning was chasing her. A scarf was pulled low over her head, her clothes plain and damp. She froze when she saw him, fear flashing across her eyes. Not curiosity, not desire, but caution. "I won't trouble you," he said quickly, voice strained. "I only need to sit." She hesitated. Delay meant punishment. Speaking to a man could mean worse. Still, she stepped closer. Without asking his name, she handed him water from the clay pot she carried. When she saw the blood, her movements changed. Calm, practiced. She tore a strip from her cloth, cleaned the wound, and bound it tightly. Her hands were steady. "You should not walk yet," she said softly. There was no performance in her voice, no flattery, just truth. She sat at a careful distance and broke the small piece of food she carried, meant for her alone, and offered him half. He refused at first. She pushed it closer. "Eat," she said simply. "The rain will pass faster if you do." They spoke little, and when they did, it was not of names or places. He spoke of feeling trapped by expectations, of a life where every step was watched. She spoke of work that never ended, of wanting to leave a place that had decided what she would always be. "Do you think freedom exists?" he asked quietly. She paused, then said, "I think it exists for those who keep walking toward it, even when they are tired." Rain thundered against the roof. Then voices cut through it. "Your Majesty!" guards called from the path. "Your Majesty!" Tension snapped the moment open. She stood at once. "You must go," she said. "Now." He reached for her, but stopped. Respect held him back. As the guard's footsteps drew near, she turned to leave. The rain swallowed her shape almost instantly. The king stepped outside moments later, the wound still warm, the hut empty. As the guards surrounded him, he looked back into the rain and whispered her words to himself, "Even when they are tired." And though he did not know her name, her face, or where she lived, her voice stayed with him, clear, calm, and impossible to forget. The king returned to the palace with a restlessness that refused to leave him. The wound on his arm healed quickly, but something deeper remained unsettled. In council meetings, his answers came late. At meals, he barely touched his food. At night, he lay awake, hearing again a calm voice in the rain. Steady, unafraid, unperformed. 3 days later, he stood before the elders and spoke words that shook the kingdom. "I will marry the girl who saved me." The hall erupted at once. He did not say rescued. He did not speak of blood, rain, or injury. He gave no place, no hour, no detail that could narrow the truth. When the elders pressed him, he only added this: "She was kind. Her voice was gentle. She was simple, not adorned." Nothing more. By sunset, the town crier's gong rang through every quarter of the kingdom. Palace messengers followed, riding hard to distant compounds, repeating the same message. The search was official. It was urgent, and it was dangerously unclear. Chaos followed. Girls stepped forward in numbers. Mothers pushed daughters ahead, adjusting wrappers, coaching smiles, retelling small kindnesses as great sacrifices. Elders argued over what kind truly meant. Some claimed gentleness was silence. Others said it was obedience. Stories grew larger with every telling. The king listened and felt no recognition. With each passing day, the noise thickened, the pressure mounted, and still, something essential was missing. In a small compound on the edge of the village, Amara heard the announcement the same way everyone else did, through the town crier's voice, carried by the wind. Her heart leapt before fear pulled it down. She knew, not because of pride, not because of hope, but because the words struck a place inside her that had been awake since the rain-soaked morning in the hut. She repeated the phrase quietly to herself while pounding yam that evening, almost without thinking. Kind, gentle voice, simple. A shadow moved behind her. Aunty Said stopped. She had been listening. Slowly she turned, eyes narrowing, not in anger, but in calculation. "Say that again," she said lightly. Amara froze. I was only..." But it was too late. The phrase, the tone, the calm way it was spoken. Aunty Said's breath changed. In that moment, certainty settled over her like cold water. It is her, not her daughter, not chance, not coincidence, her niece, the girl she had named Nothing. Aunty Said said nothing more that night. She watched, she listened, and when darkness came, she made her decision. That girl must never be seen. The next morning, she called her own daughter close and spoke in a whisper sharpened by ambition. "You will go to the palace," she said. "Not to speak, to watch, to listen, learn what they want." Her daughter nodded, confused but obedient. As she adjusted her daughter's hair, Aunty Said's lips curved into a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Listen carefully," she whispered. "You are about to become a queen." And far from the palace, Amara returned to the kitchen, unaware that the search meant to find her had already turned against her. From the moment certainty entered Aunty Said's heart, kindness left it completely. There was no confusion, no doubt, no struggle with conscience. She knew the girl who had saved the king was not her daughter. She also knew that such a chance came once in generations, and in her mind, destiny was not something you waited for, it was something you seized. That same night, when the compound fell quiet, Aunty Said called Amara aside. "You will sleep in the back hut today," she said flatly, "the one near the storeroom." Amara opened her mouth to speak, but the look in her aunt's eyes stopped her. "If you make a sound," Aunty Said continued, lowering her voice, "if you tell anyone anything, the gods will curse you for breaking this family. Remember, you are here by my mercy." The door shut behind Amara. Darkness swallowed her. No food came until long after nightfall. Hunger pressed against her ribs. The truth sat heavy in her chest, with nowhere to go. While Amara sat locked away, Aunty Said prepared a different child for the world. She bathed her daughter with scented water. She dressed her in fine wrappers that caught the light. Jewelry circled her wrists and neck. Every detail was adjusted until the girl looked like quiet elegance itself. Then came the lessons. "Do not talk too much," Aunty Said instructed. "Speak only when spoken to. Lower your eyes. Let silence appear humble." Her daughter nodded, repeating the instructions like memorized lines. At the palace, the girl was presented among many others. The king watched. From the moment she stepped forward, something in him tightened, not with recognition, but with absence. Her gestures were careful. Her kindness felt measured. When she spoke, her voice was soft, yet empty, like a tune learned rather than lived. Still, pressure gathered around him. Elders leaned in. "She fits the description." Aunty Said's voice rose above the murmurs. "My daughter has always been kind. The village knows this." The girl lowered her eyes, nodded gently, said little. The king said nothing. Rejecting her felt unjust. Accepting her felt like a lie, so he did neither. "I need time," he said at last. "Let us observe further." Relief flickered across Aunty Said's face, not victory, but hope. The deception still breathed. That night, the palace slept. The king did not. He lay awake, staring into darkness, hearing again the same calm sentence spoken in the rain. He repeated it under his breath, turning it over like a truth just out of reach. Something was wrong. He knew it. He just did not yet know where to look. And far from the palace walls, Amara lay awake in the back hut, hungry and silent, unaware that fate had already begun to shift toward her once more. Hunger weakens the body before it weakens the will. By the third night in the back hut, Amara's hands shook when she tried to stand. The little food she had been given clung to her like a memory rather than nourishment. Her throat burned. Her legs felt hollow. And yet, Something inside her refused to lie down and die quietly. When the moon dipped low and the compound slept, Amara pushed against the weak wooden latch. It creaked, then gave way. No one came. No voice called her back. She stepped into the night. She did not run like someone chasing freedom. She walked like someone following breath, slow, careful, guided by instinct more than thought. By dawn, she reached the edge of the palace grounds, just as people gathered for the morning prayer and the king's address. Silence spread across the courtyard. The king stood before the crowd again, uncertainty etched into his face. Elders waited. Women watched. The false bride stood nearby, wrapped in calm she did not feel. "The girl who saved me," the king said, voice steady but searching, "has not yet been found." A murmur rippled through the gathering. "If she hears my words," he continued, "let her speak." Amara stood at the edge of the crowd, dizzy, unseen, until a guard noticed her and frowned. "Who are you?" he asked sharply. Her mouth opened before fear could close it again. She spoke only one sentence. "I helped because it was the right thing to do, not because anyone was watching." The sound of her voice cut through the courtyard like a bell. The king froze. The crowd vanished. The elders faded. The palace walls dissolved into rain and shadow and a broken hut. That is her voice, not her face, not her clothing, not her position, her voice. The king stepped forward before he realized he was moving. Across the courtyard, Aunty Said's smile collapsed. The color drained from her face. Her daughter's hands trembled. "What is this?" an elder whispered. Murmurs rose, confused and uneasy. The king stopped in front of Amara, searching her face, not for confirmation, but for peace. "It is you," he said quietly, not as a question, as truth. Gasps broke the silence. Aunty Said opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. Words failed her for the first time. The king turned to the elders. "The girl I have been searching for," he said, voice firm now, "has been standing among us." The crowd shifted. Eyes turned. Whispers grew sharper. Truth had arrived, not carried in accusation or proof, but in sound and memory. And now that it had entered the open, it could no longer be locked away. The courtyard did not erupt. It went still. The king raised his hand, and the murmurs faded like wind settling over water. "I recognize her," he said clearly, so all could hear. "Not by her face, not by her clothes, not by where she stands. I recognize her by her voice." He turned slightly, as if to make the truth unmistakable. "It is the same voice that spoke to me when I was wounded. Calm, honest, unafraid. That voice cannot be learned." The elders exchanged glances. The false bride lowered her head. No one argued. Then the king looked at Amara again, not as a ruler now, but as someone listening. "Speak," he said gently. "Tell us how you lived." Amara did not rush. She did not raise her voice. She spoke only when asked, and she spoke simply. She told them where she slept, near the kitchen, beside firewood. She told them how she ate, after everyone else. She told them how she worked, water before dawn, farm rows under the sun, loads at the market. She told them how she was silenced, locked away, and warned not to speak. She did not accuse, she did not insult, she did not cry. Her calm carried more weight than shouting ever could. When she finished, the elders stood. One by one, they remembered aloud. They spoke of the river that rose and took 2 good people. They spoke of the land given to Aunty Said when she had none. Of the stall funded so she could trade with dignity. Of the night the priest stood beside them and a promise was sworn. "If I mistreat her, may the gods judge me," they repeated. "And everything they left for her will remain hers." The words hung in the air, unchanged by time. All eyes turned to Aunty Said. She could not deny the oath. She could not deny the girl lived in her house. She could not explain the locked door. She said nothing. Her silence was enough. The king spoke again, this time with the elders beside him. "For breaking a sacred promise," he said, You lose the honor of this village. You will hold no position of trust, no voice of authority, no privilege of trade or leadership. The words were not shouted. They did not need to be. To your daughter, he added, you will be sent away. You will take no part in this palace or this lie. No blows were struck. No chains were brought. But in the village, honor was life, and it was gone. Aunty Said stood, breathing, free, and emptied of all that had once made her powerful. The crowd shifted, not with anger now, but with understanding. The king turned back to Amara. You were unseen, he said softly, so only she and the nearest ears could hear, but never unknown. And for the first time since the river rose, Amara stood in the open, no longer a shadow, no longer a name meant to wound, restored not by revenge, but by truth. When the noise of judgment faded and the courtyard returned to breath, the king did not rush his next words. He stood before the people, before the elders, before the girl whose life had been carried by silence for too long. I have heard everything, he said, and I have chosen. The crowd leaned forward, expecting gratitude, reward, or pity. They were given none of those. I do not choose her because she suffered, the king continued, not because she was hidden, not because anyone speaks for her. He turned to Amara then, his voice steady. I choose her because she showed me who she was when she had nothing to gain. There was no applause, no sudden cheer, only a deep, quiet understanding, as if the truth had finally settled into its rightful place. Amara became queen without spectacle. No long procession was described. No jealous triumph followed. No revenge colored her rise. Her place beside the king felt calm, certain and inevitable, like something delayed, not stolen. Power did not change her. She remained gentle. She remained measured. Her strength stayed quiet, but it was no longer small. Where cruelty had once shaped her days, clarity now guided her steps. And when her reign began, it began without speeches. She walked first to the places she knew best. Kitchens, back rooms, compounds where children slept near firewood and smoke. She opened doors others had forgotten. She removed girls from hands that used promises as chains. She placed children under protection where oaths were watched and kept. No one needed to ask why she did these things. The kingdom understood. A promise broken had buried a child. A promise kept had lifted a queen. Only after this, after justice had found its shape, did the story return to quiet. In the evenings when the palace stilled, the king and queen sat together without ceremony. No crowns discussed, no power displayed. Just two people sharing silence, not as ruler and reward, but as partners who had seen truth the same way. And so the folktale did not end with love. It ended with something stronger. Love was not the prize. Love was the confirmation. If you enjoyed this story till the end, like the video and subscribe to help us bring you more stories like this.